I heard the shouting before I even stepped outside. Not angry shouting. That sharp, nasal authoritative tone only HOA board members and malfunctioning smoke alarms seem capable of producing. I pushed open our front door, bracing myself for whatever HOA Karen-flavored nonsense she'd cooked up this time. Sure enough, there she was, parked on our walkway like she owned the deed. Karen, in all her glory. Neon visor, clipboard, a dog-themed sweater that clashed violently with the summer sun. And next to her stood her teenage son, Tyler, hands shoved into his hoodie pockets, eyes darting around like he was practicing to be suspicious for a living. I was just coming to wheel my daughter, Lily, down the ramp so she could get some fresh air. She's a quiet kid, soft-spoken, anxiety-prone, but stronger than anyone gives her credit for. Karen, however, acted like Lily accessing her own front yard was some kind of federal offense. The moment Karen saw us, she snapped, "You can't block the sidewalk with that." She gestured at Lily's wheelchair like it personally insulted her bloodline. I took a breath. "It's literally our driveway, Karen." She opened her mouth again. Of course she did. But before she could unleash her second wave of nonsense, everything shifted. Tyler stepped forward. His sleeve moved, and in one horrifying instant, I saw the glint of metal. A knife. Not big, but big enough. Pointed low, toward my daughter. Lily froze. I froze. The world narrowed down to that tiny triangle of silver. "Tyler," I warned, voice tight, "put that away." But he didn't. He licked his lips, eyes flicking toward his mother, like he expected her to back him up. She didn't flinch. If anything, she looked annoyed, like his pulling a knife was just another item she had to check off her clipboard. My pulse hammered. My hands shook. And then, cutting through the tension like a snapped cable, the front door behind me swung open. My husband stepped out. Calm, controlled, wearing that expression he used when he was about to end a situation with exactly 3 words. Tyler's knuckles whitened around the handle. My husband's voice was low, steady. "Son, you really don't want to do that. I'm SWAT." Everything stopped. The silence that followed my husband's words was the kind that swallowed sound whole. Even the cicadas hesitated, like, "Oh damn, this just got serious." Tyler's grip on the knife faltered. Not much, but enough that I saw his fingers tremble. His eyes flicked between my husband and his mother, clearly torn between fight, flight, and whatever third option teenage bravado usually defaults to. Karen broke the tension first, not with concern, not with fear, but with an indignant huff that sounded like a snorting alpaca. "Excuse me," she snapped, stepping forward as if she were the victim. "You can't threaten my son. I'll have the HOA fine you for intimidation." My husband didn't even look at her. He had all his focus locked onto Tyler. Steady, trained, controlled. "Put the knife down," he told him, "now." Tyler's breath quickened. A tiny sound escaped him, part grunt, part panic. His gaze darted around like he suddenly realized he'd wandered off. A curb and into freeway traffic. Lily's fingers gripped my sleeve. I crouched beside her, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart. Dad's here." She nodded, but her eyes stayed glued on the blade. Karen, however, doubled down. She reached for her son's arm. "Tyler, sweetie, ignore him. He can't tell you what to." My husband's voice cut through her like a scalpel. "Ma'am, step back. Your son is armed." Something in his tone, maybe the authority, maybe the lack of any visible panic, finally seemed to pierce the Karen force field. She froze. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across her face. Tyler swallowed hard, and in that slow, dawning way, teenagers realize they've made a catastrophic error. He muttered, I wasn't going to do anything. She was blocking the sidewalk." I stared at him. "With her wheelchair? Really?" His cheeks reddened. His eyes dropped. And then, blessedly, he lowered the knife. Not all at once, but enough that the danger receded like a tide pulling back from the shore. My husband stepped forward, calm, methodical. But before he could take the knife from Tyler, Karen snapped, shrill and panicked. "Don't you touch him. I'm calling the board president." the board president. Of course she was. And that's when things took an even sharper turn. Because the board president didn't just pick up. They showed up, walking fast, arms crossed, face set. And they were furious. The board president, Mr. Harwood, wasn't exactly a man you expected to arrive at a sprint. Middle-aged, balding, usually moved at the pace of a dial-up modem. But that afternoon, he barreled down the sidewalk like he'd been launched, his eyes locked on the scene. My husband poised and steady, Tyler clutching the knife like it was burning his hand, Lily pale and shaking in her chair, and Karen, well, Karen looking like she had personally summoned justice itself. "What is going on here?" Harwood wheezed out, voice sharp. Karen shot her hand up like a tattling fourth grader. "They threatened my son. He was just defending himself. She jabbed a finger at me, blocked the community walkway with that wheelchair, and her husband assaulted our family." Harwood blinked at her, slowly, like his brain was buffering. Then his gaze dropped to the knife still in Tyler's hand, his face drained of color. "Tyler, is that a weapon?" Tyler looked at his shoes. "It's just a pocket knife." "Wrong line. Wrong moment." Harwood's voice pitched upward. "Why would you pull a knife on your neighbors?" Karen burst out. "He didn't. They're lying." "They're always lying, ever since they moved in. It's complaint this, accommodation that." "Accommodation?" My husband snapped. His composure was steady, but his patience was thinning to threads. "My daughter's wheelchair ramp is not an accommodation. It's legally required." Harwood rubbed his temples. He looked like a man reevaluating every life choice that led him here. Then he turned on Karen. "Did you call me here claiming an emergency? HOA violation while your son had a knife in his hand?" Her mouth fell open. "Well, technically nothing. This is a safety issue, Karen." There it was, the shift. For the first time since we'd moved into this dysfunctional cul-de-sac of nightmares, someone in the HOA was actually holding her accountable. Karen sputtered. "You're taking their side?" Harwood pointed at the knife. "I'm taking the side that doesn't require me to fill out an incident report involving minors and weapons." My husband stepped forward, calm but firm. "I can secure the knife. Then we can talk next steps." But before anyone could respond, Tyler backed away, panic flaring. And then he bolted, knife still in hand. Karen screamed. Harwood cursed. My husband took off after him. And I realized this wasn't over. Not even close. Tyler didn't get far. Not with my husband behind him. Not running. Just moving with that unnervingly controlled speed that says I've trained for worse than this. By the time Tyler reached the end of the cul-de-sac, my husband was already there, blocking his escape. Tyler spun, chest heaving, knife hand shaking like it weighed 50 pounds instead of 5 ounces. My husband didn't yell, didn't threaten, just held up both hands and said, "You're scared. That's fine, but you don't run with a weapon. Give it to me." Something in his tone, maybe the steady confidence, maybe the lack of judgment, cracked Tyler's last bit of defiance. His face crumpled. He dropped the knife. It clattered on the pavement, a small sound, but one that echoed through the whole street. Karen came screeching around the corner seconds later, breathless and panicked, shouting Tyler's name like she was the victim of the day. Harwood limped behind her, muttering about bylaws and liability insurance. My husband had already knelt down, picking up the knife with 2 fingers, like he was handling evidence. When Karen saw it in his hand, she snapped, "Give that back! It belongs to my son." He stood, leveled her with a calm stare. "No, we're filing an incident report. This doesn't just go away." Karen's face twisted. Fury, fear, entitlement, all tangled together. "You can't. He didn't mean anything by it. He was defending me. You people always make us out to be the villains." "Karen," Harwood interrupted, voice unexpectedly firm, "your son pulled a knife on a disabled child." She froze, just stopped, and in the heavy silence that followed, I saw something flicker across her expression. Not remorse, not empathy, but the dawning realization that this time, her usual tactics wouldn't save her. Tyler wiped his eyes, voice cracking. I just didn't want you yelling again, Mom. Karen blinked, stunned. Yelling? I wasn't, but we all knew she was lying. Even Tyler. Harwood exhaled. I'll handle the board. You, he pointed at Karen, need to get your family under control. For once, she didn't argue. Paramedics came to check Lily, though she insisted she was fine. My husband gave his statement. Harwood apologized, genuinely. And Karen? She walked home quietly, shoulders slumped, Tyler beside her. The next week, she resigned from the HOA for personal reasons. Peace returned to our street. Not because the HOA changed, but because the one person who'd been tearing it apart finally met a line she couldn't cross. If this story hit home, tap like. It shows you're with the folks who refuse to be pushed around. Subscribe to Vibe TV so you never miss moments where real people reclaim their ground. And tell me in the comments, in a situation like this, what would you have done?